Yo guys, so I got something different going on today. I haven't looked at these in a very long time, but I'm going to go through some of my top watched boom player hands and talk you through them, see if I can remember my thought process. But so this one was over a year and it's like a year and a half ago now, but we'll see what it is. So we're limping 7-6 suited blind versus blinds. I would mix. I would sometimes raise this. Actually, usually raise this and sometimes limp this about like 50 big blinds deep. I would raise this versus people that fold too much in the big blind, which is most people. But I'd limp this versus people that raise too much, or 3-bet too much, or just call too much, or is a good player. So we'll find out which one of these this is. Min bet the turn, it's obviously a recreational player. The only reason I can think that I would do this is if I think this guy is an absolute mentalist. And I think he might be floating too much like 10 highs and jack highs and queen highs, things like that. And, you know, have like loads of 3x, 4 5, 7 5s, 4 deuces, 7 4s, hands like that. And I assume that I'm doing this. It's called a BSTI. I like to call it a bet small to induce. Usually trying to induce some kind of spaz. Oh, I assume I call. All right, and I guess that is exactly what I was doing. Hashtag fuck GTO. There's not too much to say about this. Obviously, it was a very player-specific read, but do not be afraid. I guess the lesson is to take out of that. Don't be afraid to play absolutely insane versus some other insane people. You don't always have to play ABC to beat the recreational players. You can play your own kind of crazy and see who's crazy comes out on top. And that's going to be the highest EV. Whether it's always going to work, that's probably not the case. So here we open in a $320 tournament. Get a call from the big blind. I actually remember this one. I think we end up double barreling. Yeah. So there are a lot of situations where I'll be way over bluffing in tournaments specifically. This is definitely one of my own personal traits for tournaments. You don't have to do that, but tournament players, they do, and they definitely did in 2016, but they do still now tend to overfold in so many situations. They'll just fold top pairs in situations where it's obviously like near the top of their range, and looks like when he check raises the turn, it screams like bullshit to me even now, even though I know what it is, so it's obviously easy to say. But if he had something like a set or 2 pair, which would obviously, 10-9 is the most likely 2 pair because he can have the offsuit combos is that 100% of the time, it feels like he would just call. There are so many bluffy hands that I can have. I can have king jack, king queen, queen jack, clubs, 7-8 suited, and maybe obviously something with a lot less equity than that. So yeah, it just screams like bullshit. Obviously the clubs getting there isn't great, but I think calling the river makes a lot of sense because he's always going to be bluffing the river when the club comes in, because he's like, well, I can have a flush draw or a value hand, and as well as that he can have 5 6 6 7 a lot of hands. It just feels so bluff heavy when it gets to the turn. And he has queen 5 of hearts. Holy shit. He can also have something like king queen of hearts, king queen of diamonds, king queen of clubs. Obviously not the queen of clubs there. And that would be a flush. But anyway, I love it. Some of these are going to be pretty mental. I don't always play like this, but obviously these are selected to be some of the most watched hands. So here's in a 1K tournament, the Super Tuesday. We decide to call a 3-bet. Check raising. Wow. Okay, me. I guess my thought process is he's going to be... I guess I would have thought he's the kind of person to be c-betting aces, ace king, and some bluffs, maybe some like ace 5 suiteds, and we could get him off those on the flop, hitting the turn. God damn it. Fair enough, dude. Oh my god, how embarrassing. Well, I guess it was gonna work. If the plan was to fold him off aces and ace king, I guess that was gonna be a thing, but sucks to hit the turn like that. I might not put all of these in the edit. Some of these might not be as interesting as I might have hoped. Here in the $10,300 tournament, we 3-bet pretty small, real small. So this is an exploitative size I would have used probably against a reg that I think is going to be peeling too many 3-bets. I would usually go bigger against most people, but it's back in 2016, so I guess not that weird. In 2016, people didn't really 3-bet too big. You could actually get as much fold equity with a smaller 3-bet as you could with a bigger 3-bet. But against a lot of people, I remember specifically against Tonka, who was one of the people I'd always 3-bet small with these kind of like middle-ish hands, where with a really linear range, because he'd open like under the gun, and then someone would 3-bet from like the small blind, and he'd like 3.5x, and he'd appear with like Queen 9 suited. And the way to exploit that, or one of the ways to exploit that, is to just 3-bet a really linear but value-heavy range. It's like Ace King, Ace Queen, Ace Jack, because then when he does call, you have him dominated so often. So I assume that was one of these people, or it was just on I thought I could get enough fold equity from. So my plan on this flop is, against regs, is usually to c-bet small and get calls from their ace highs, so their ace 9 suiteds through their ace 10 offs, ace jack, ace queen. They're probably 4-bet ace king, so just those. Maybe some ace 7 suiteds as well. And then is also like 3s, 4s, 5s, and 7s. All of the ace highs, apart from maybe ace 7 suited and some ace x of clubs, I should be able to get folds on the turn, so that will be the plan. I like it. When he calls, it's very likely he now just has a 1 pair. Obviously he can have a set, but whatever. He can have some 8-7s, and let's say that the river's a deuce, a complete brick, like an offsuit deuce. I would actually just give up here, because it's a situation where so many people just end up hero calling down if they have 8-7 or pocket 9s. People really tend to like call too much of their range if they have like an overpair to the board or top pair of the board, and they're not folding enough. So it actually shut down so many of my bluffs. Whereas if the river's like obviously, okay, not in this situation, but in a bunch of situations, if the river's a scare card, I'll end up shoving way too much because people end up folding. It's just one of those exploitative things. I think when you're playing against GTO players, they think they're completely unexploitable, but they're obviously humans. When they think they have like one of the best hands that they can have, and obviously top pair looks like one of the best hands that you can have, but in actuality, and something like 6-5 suited looks like a really good hand in this kind of situation as well, but in actuality, most of their range by the time they get to the river, if the river were a deuce, will be one of those 1-pair hands, and they'll end up talking themselves into calling way too large a percentage. That's what I've found to be true, and I really do believe that's the case. Anyway, here I assume we're just shoving when you have my kind of image, and there's only one scare card to the board. It looks like we're going to be barreling this 100% of the time. I assume that we shove and get called, and we get called by jacks with a club. Remember, he tanked that for a long time. It's completely reasonable hand to call down with there, especially with the jack of clubs. It depends whether he thinks we're going to be bluffing with many like jack 10s, queen jacks, hands like that. But yeah, completely reasonable hand to call down, even from a theory perspective. But against me, like the thing is, in that specific spot, I'm probably not going to be bluffing the river almost ever. But they don't know which spots I'm going to be bluffing and why I'm going to be bluffing, and like against me. From their perspective, sorry, if they think that I'm going to be the kind of person who's just going to be over bluffing rivers in general, but they don't know which ones, it's very reasonable for them to call me down light in general on rivers. All right, here we defend King 9 off against a small c-bet. I hope I'm check raising. I really do love check raising these kind of spots. We get a call, so he can be floating here with some ace highs. He can have some pocket 8s, some pocket 3s. He can have some 9x, and he can have some overpairs as well. I must think very specifically of this person to be betting this turn. He obviously can have some other floats like king 10, king queen, and queen 10 suiteds, and they will all be calling this turn as well. That people just really don't like folding their floats if they pick up loads of equity. And here I assume I'm going to be checking the river. And yeah, he goes for a shove. So I just have, I remember this one. This one he snap shoved the river, and I was just like, fuck that, man. Yeah, people when they snap shove, there are some situations where it's value heavy, but most situations it's bluff heavy. They're just like, get it over and done with. I'm done. Make it look strong. Is that whole like rounders thing of like strength is weakness and weakness is strength. Obviously, a lot of these are going right. I do have a lot of boom players that go wrong, so it's we're running good on the ones that look good. Ace 3 suited, going for a standard just 3-bet. You can fold this sometimes. You can call this sometimes. Very nice flop in a 1K Super Tuesday. Going to be c-betting here, pretty small. We can check, and if you want to be making a check and range here, it's super fine. I think theory-wise you're meant to be betting 100%, and I specifically don't care about that. So like just looking at ace-3 of clubs here, I want to be definitely getting value from all the smaller flush draws. If he raises those, it's glorious to get in best like king, queen of clubs, and some people do raise those. We want to fold out some just like king, queen of hearts kind of hands instead of it going check, check. I think too many people will check behind all of their like jack tens, queen jacks and whatnot, because it doesn't look like we're going to be check folding this flop very often. So I think c-betting's real good. Here on the turn, I guess I like checking, because then we get to check call really comfortably. We get some really disguised hands on the river if we do hit, and sometimes he stabs once with something like, I don't know, like 8-9 of diamonds, and then gives up the river, and ISI is sometimes good. So when he checks, so his range here is going to be a lot of ace highs, I think, is the main proportion of his range. He can have some pocket pairs like 5-6s. He can have some like 10s, but people tend to bet those. I hope I bluff, even though it looks like, you know, at top of the range we bluff flush draws, whatever, blah blah blah. I think bluffing's pretty good. I shove. Not a big fan of it, to be honest. What? Okay, that's just what? I mean, good read. I guess he had a good read that it was a bluff, but that's ambitious, man. That's ambitious. I have to be, wow. Yeah, I have to be a 3-bet bluffing pre-flop with some really specific hands for that to be anywhere near okay. And he has to be super sure it's a bluff. That's the reason I don't really like shoving there, because I think it looks too bluffy in that specific spot or whatever. We have a 25 and L hand back in 2013. Shout out to that. We have kings. Go for a 4-bet against a cold call. I remember back in the 25 and L days, people used to 3-bet bluff so rarely that I would actually just call this 100% of the time if it was just heads up, because it would just always be like, you either get in against aces or they fold queens, you know. But with this guy here, a recreational player with dead money, it's definitely good to try and get it in. So we definitely have the best hand. Unfortunate flop, but not the worst. So I don't know what this guy's repping. I guess he's just repping like a slow played ace, like ace king kind of hand, but I don't know why he wouldn't see that. This is a long time ago. This is my 25 nowadays. I've had 334, enough to put this player all in. So obviously I'm trying to get value from this dude, and I think he has like 10s or queens or something. Yeah, 10s, queens, jacks. All right, shout out to 25 now. I don't know why that has so many views. That's kind of funny. Must have posted it somewhere. What should we look at? 5-4 off's gonna be a good one, right? I wish they told you, boom player people, if you're watching this. I wish you could tell people what's going on and like what kind of game it is at the top. So this is 25.50. I used to play high stakes cash. I took a few shots, maybe like 20 shots at 25.50. I got to the point where the regs would stop playing me. That was it. I was like, I've made it now. I definitely wasn't one of the better regs. I was a really good 2-5 Zoom player back in 2016, and I was good enough, I think, to beat 25.50 if I game selected, but not to beat it against the regs. So here we defend 5-4, going for a very standard kind of bet here. I can see overbetting, and I can see going this size. I think going this size is kind of more reasonable. It's a size that puts his ace high. This is me going to my game theory kind of mentality. It's a size. It's kind of nice to bluff. It puts his ace highs in a real shitty spot. He has to fold his king highs. So thinking in terms of if we have a bluff here. So I don't think there's too much reason to overbet. He still has quite a reasonable call with his jack X and his slow play queen X if we overbet. So I think going this size makes a lot more sense with more value hands. Obviously calling this down. When he check raises and checks, I don't know what the fuck he has. Maybe he's got like king queen. It feels like he bet the river with that though. But whatever, we're shoving. Yeah, we have it's very hard for us to have a value hand, and he's going to be shoving those better hands. So see what happens. Whoa. It's not that hard to have a value hand. That is a interesting call, 25-50. I remember that was a reg, but yeah, don't know what's going on there. What should we look at, boys? King 9 of spades. All right, $215 tournament. And guys, let me know if you like this kind of material. This is obviously very quick fire. I don't go into too much detail about all these different kind of hands. Guys, 2016, people didn't know about big 3-bets. It was beautiful because I was the kind of person that didn't like folding. So when they're giving me a good price to call, so profitable. It's one of those things that, looking back, it's kind of lucky if you're in a really aggressive player that calls loads instead of like one of those more tight conservative players, because back in 2016 everyone used to 3-bet small. So all the people that are conservative and folding normally to the 3-bets, they're actually burning money because they were getting such a good price, and because the poker theory hadn't caught up with this yet, they didn't know that they were folding. They didn't know that you made a 3-bet bigger in these kind of situations. So I can sit. We definitely have range advantage. When we call the 3-bet here, we have a lot of so we have king, queen, king, jack, nines. How deep were we, pre? What were the blinds? 1600. Yeah, we still have nines and tens. Don't have queens. We have queen 10 suited and 10-9 suited. So leading's kind of nice. We also have some hearts. We also have ace jack as a bluff, and apparently king 9 suited is bluff. I love it. The going small in the flop was probably so we get calls from his ace kings, because I assume I was planning on double barreling it, and also it looks a lot less bluffy, I think. And this is definitely back in a time where looking a lot less bluffy was a thing. All right, I'll do one last one because I don't know if people are going to enjoy this at all, but see, we did that one. Let's go on to page 2. Let's see what this one is. All right, we're playing a 1K. Opening. Call. I love it. Oh, we're pretty deep in a 1K. Shit, this is probably like final table of a 1K. All right, or maybe final few tables. Check call. Check call. I must have a read. Is it gonna be good? Oh no, pipped. Damn it. So yeah, that's obviously one of the difficulties of playing back in 2016. Some people use some weird hands to bluff with. But dude, if you're not folding out ace 7, you're probably not folding out anything else. So bad bluff. So yeah, guys, if you enjoy this, I'm probably just not going to edit it. I had some fun. I really do like going over online hand histories as well as live hand histories. So let me know if there are any specific hands of mine or of other people's you'd like me to review and talk over. Let me know if you like it in more detail. I've done like 10 different types of hand reviews now. I've put it all on a playlist, so if anyone wants to see it. And there seems to be mixed reviews of what types of hand histories people like, but they all seem to get pretty positive feedback. So let me know. Peace.